After receiving $33 million, my daughter revealed her true colors 3 days later. An amazing twist began. Joe Thompson's heart raced as he sat at the small kitchen table, the lottery ticket in front of him transforming from a mundane piece of paper into a life-altering treasure. $33 million. The numbers danced in his mind, dizzying yet intoxicating. He was a 50-year-old mechanic, a Vietnam veteran, and here he was facing a wealth that could turn everything upside down. His hands trembled as he picked up the phone, needing to share the miraculous news with his daughter, Emily. "Dad, are you joking?" she exclaimed, half laughing, half in disbelief. The joy in her voice filled him with excitement, but he couldn't shake the weight pressing down on his chest. She had always been shy, struggling to find her footing in the world. What would this money do to her? Days passed in a whirlwind of congratulations and praise from the small suburban town of Ohio that had always loved the Thompsons. Joe was proud of the support from his neighbors, but beneath the surface unease bubbled. Just 3 days after the announcement, Emily threw a lavish party, a spectacle featuring glitzy decorations, and a guest list that stretched beyond their tight-knit circle. The noise of laughter and music echoed, and for a flicker of a moment, he felt joy at seeing her shine. Then came the sinking realization that this celebration felt wrong. The usual Emily had faded into someone unrecognizable. Gone was the daughter who cherished family dinners and morning coffee chats. Instead, a whirlwind of entitlement and extravagance took her place, and it broke his heart. Families in town gossiped, some whispering about Joe's parenting skills as though he'd failed at the very task that had brought him so much pride. Joe felt lost in the chaos of it all, his heart aching as he watched Emily dance, unaware of the rapid changes enveloping her life. "Emily, come here," he called out, desperation creeping into his voice as he sought to connect with her. She turned, eyes filled with irritation, dismissing the very values he had instilled in her over the years. The air grew thick with tension, choking out the warmth of their home. "Why can't you just let me live a little?" she snapped, anger flaring. "I've finally got the chance to be someone." That moment struck Joe like a blow. How could she not see the danger, the people around her waiting to suck her spirit dry? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. 3 days passed since that confrontational moment, and then he received a phone call that set off alarms in his chest. A former friend of Emily's, someone he had once thought trustworthy, was plotting to exploit her newfound wealth. The innocent spark he had always seen in his daughter's eyes seemed to be fading, replaced by a dangerous allure of money and status. Panic gripped Joe's heart. He felt suffocated by the urgency of the situation. This was no longer just about wealth, it was about protecting the very soul of his daughter. Could he save Emily from herself before it was too late? The shadows of fear loomed over him, and he stood at a crossroads. Time felt precious, and he couldn't afford to lose her to the seductive siren call of riches. As the familiar anxiety settled in his bones, Joe knew that the battle wasn't just against external forces, it was a race against time to bring back the daughter he loved and preserve their bond amidst the chaos. Would he find a way to salvage their relationship? As dark clouds loomed over the Thompson household, his heart raced with the hope of uncovering the truth before it was too late. Joe felt the weight of the world on his shoulders as he paced back and forth in the dim light of the kitchen. The phone call had shaken him to his core. The feeling of dread wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. He couldn't let Emily become a casualty of her own success, but how could he intervene without pushing her further away? His mind raced, replaying their last argument. He remembered the anger in her voice, the fire that once burned with passion for life now flickering dangerously. In that moment he realized he had to act before it was too late. That evening, he decided to confront the situation head-on. He picked up the phone, hesitating as he thought about calling Emily's former friend Josh. Something about him rubbed Joe the wrong way, the way he praised Emily's new lifestyle, how he seemed overly interested in her well-being. As the phone rang, each beep echoed in his mind like a countdown. What was he going to say? He needed information but also to protect his daughter. When Josh finally answered, Joe waded through the small talk. "Hey, I wanted to talk to you about Emily," he finally said. "Sure, Mr. Thompson. She's really something these days," Josh replied, a little too eagerly. Joe felt a chill. The conversation turned tense quickly. "I've heard some things, Josh. People are saying you might be using her, leading her down a bad path." "Oh, come on." Josh laughed, the sound oily and condescending. "Emily is living her best life. You should be happy for her. Don't you want her to enjoy life?" Joe's spine straightened, the protective father rising from within. "You don't care about her happiness. You care about her money. Stay away from her." The line went silent for a moment. Joe could almost hear the gears turning in Josh's mind. "You can't control her, Joe. She's an adult now. And trust me, she's not a child anymore." With his heart pounding, Joe hung up. He felt fury ignite within him, but more than that, fear for the daughter he had raised. Emily had always been bright and ambitious. He had hoped this wealth would open doors, not lead to a twisted sense of entitlement. The next day dawned gray and heavy, mirroring Joe's unease. He could hear muffled music from the garage where Emily had gathered some friends. He approached, heart racing. "Emily," he called, stepping inside. She looked up, carefree laughter dying on her lips. "Can we talk?" She rolled her eyes but relented, gesturing for him to sit. "What's up, Dad?" "Emily, I'm worried about you. I think you might be mixing with the wrong crowd," he said, coming straight to the point. Her expression hardened. "Why are you being such a buzzkill?" "I'm happy, Dad. Just let me enjoy this." Frustration bubbled over. "Happy? Is this really happiness or just a fleeting high?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed her features. For one brief moment, he saw a glimmer of the daughter he once knew. The thickness in the air lifting just enough for hope to slip through. "No one gets rich and happy without being changed. But that doesn't mean you have to lose yourself." She opened her mouth to respond. But just then the front door swung open, interrupting their conversation. A flood of familiar faces from the party poured in, filling the space with noise and distraction. Emily's posture shifted immediately, the carefree party girl returning as the music pulsed around them. Joe felt a pit forming in his stomach. He had to find a way to reach her, to get her to see that the thrill was temporary. He had to dig deeper and fast, but how? As laughter erupted in the background, he leaned forward, vulnerability spilling into his voice. "I love you, Emily. I just want to help you." But would she be willing to listen, or was she too far gone? The noise around him faded, and as he watched her smile at her friends, he wondered if his plea had fallen on deaf ears. How much longer could he wait to reveal the truth? As night fell around him, an idea sparked in Joe's mind, a radical plan to show Emily the reality behind the glitz. Would it work, or would it push her further away? He had to make a choice, and the time for that choice was running out. Joe sat at the kitchen table, his heart pounding with that radical plan swirling in his mind. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. He could either take a leap of faith or back away in fear. He knew that drastic times called for drastic measures. How far was he willing to go to save his daughter? He thought about how to approach this carefully. He had witnessed the change in Emily, and now it was time not just to talk, but to show her the truth. After rummaging through old photographs, he gathered what he could find. Images of Emily as a little girl, carefree in the park, her laughter ringing like bells in the air. She didn't care about money back then, she just wanted to play. With a heavy heart yet determined spirit, Joe made a plan. He would invite Emily to relive some of those memories. He knew she wouldn't be thrilled, but the hope was that nostalgia would spark something inside her. Maybe she'd remember the things that used to make her truly happy. The next day, under the guise of a spontaneous outing, he approached her with an inviting smile. "Hey, how about a day out? Just you and me?" Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What's this about, Dad? You're not gonna make me do something boring, are you?" Joe chuckled, trying to stay lighthearted. "I promise it'll be fun, just like old times. You remember the park?" He watched as her expression shifted. Memories flickered across her face, but she tried to brush it off. "I guess, but it won't be like it used to be. Things are different now." "Let us find out," he said softly, hoping to plant a seed of curiosity. Before she could argue further, He gently took her hand and led her to the car. The drive was quiet, tension building between them like a taut string. Joe stole glances at her, wishing he could break through the barrier she'd built so high. When they arrived at the park, it was as if time stood still. The vibrant colors of the trees seemed to echo laughter and joy. The air was filled with the scents of summer, grass and flowers. Emily hesitated at the entrance, looking at the swings she had once fought with her friends over. "Let us just walk," she suggested, but Joe could feel her resolve wavering. He led her to the swings and sat down on one, grinning like a fool. "I dare you to join me just like when you were a kid." With a reluctant sigh, Emily joined him. For a moment they both swung, feeling the breeze rush past them, and for Joe it was like a small victory. He noticed a hint of a smile creeping onto Emily's face, a glimmer of the girl he used to know. "Remember when we used to race?" he asked, a playful impishness in his voice. "I was way faster." She laughed, the sound warming his heart. That laughter fueled his determination. Joe wanted to keep that spark alive, to remind her of what life was beyond the superficial. After a while, they moved to the picnic area, where he pulled out the old photographs he'd brought. "Look at this. You used to love ice cream, remember?" As she looked at the pictures, he saw her expression soften. "I was such a dork," she said, a hint of embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "Yeah, but you were my dork," he said, feeling emotion clench in his throat. "You were happy. No money, no fame, it wasn't he about that." Emily looked away, her gaze drawn back to the happy memories they were revisiting. "I know, Dad, but things changed suddenly." Joe's phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from Josh, and curiosity pierced through the moment. He could ignore it, but the gnawing instinct to protect Emily propelled him to glance. The message was chilling and urgent. "Just wanted to let you know Emily's in deeper than you think. She'll regret it soon." Joe's heart sank. How deep was she really? He turned back to Emily, mind racing. He had to act, and fast. He reached for her hand. "Emily, let us talk about your life. You trust me, right?" She hesitated, crossing her arms defensively. "Why now, Dad?" "Because if you don't listen, you might lose everything that matters to you." And as they sat there in the fading light, a tension built that felt thicker than the air around them. How much more could he reveal without pushing her away? Would this be the moment that changed everything for them? Or would it push her deeper into a world he couldn't reach? The truth loomed ahead, and time was running out to uncover it. Emily's eyes darkened with defiance as she pulled her hand back, distancing herself from the warmth of his grip. "What do you mean I might lose everything?" "I'm fine, Dad. Really." The defensiveness in her voice sliced through the evening air, but Joe's heart clenched tighter. "No, you're not," Joe said, fighting to keep his tone steady. "I've seen you change. You're not the same girl who used to laugh at the swings or race to the ice cream truck. This isn't just about me wanting you to be happy. It's about the real you getting buried beneath all this pressure." He took a deep breath, struggling to find the words that could break through her walls. "And remember how we used to talk about dreams? You wanted to be a designer, create things that brought joy, not just money. Where did that girl go?" Emily's gaze fell to the grass, the tension visible in her shoulders. Joe could almost see the internal battle, her heart yearning for those carefree days, while her mind was wrapped up in the heavy expectations of adulthood. "It's complicated, Dad. I have to think about my future." She shifted her weight, clearly uncomfortable. "I can't just live in the past." "What if I said living in the past is the key to your future?" He pressed. "What if the happiness you're chasing is exhausting you?" She met his gaze then, vulnerability flashing in her eyes yet quickly masked by frustration. "Where is this coming from? Just because you found some old pictures doesn't mean I should forget who I am now." Joe felt a slackening in his chest as despair washed over him. He had thrown a line out to her, but perhaps he'd cast it too far. "I'm not asking you to forget, hon. I'm asking you to remember the pieces of yourself that still exist underneath it all." He let the silence unfold between them, every second thick with unspoken words and buried memories. It was as if the air around them was charged, waiting for just the right spark to ignite something deeper. Emily looked ready to bolt, but Joe couldn't let her. "Remember when we camped out in the backyard?" he said, as a way to steer them back to something comforting. "You insisted on sleeping under the stars even though it was freezing." I remember how you practically bounced out of your sleeping bag when you saw the moon. It was magic for you then. What happened to that magic? For a moment she remained quiet, her face softening at the recollection. A hint of a smile briefly crossed her lips, but Joe's heart sank when it faded as quickly as it did come. I don't know, Dad. It just feels like everything is a game now. I can't just go back. Joe took another step closer, careful not to overwhelm her. It's not about going back. It's about reminding yourself that you can still find joy, even amid the chaos. The world doesn't have to define who you are. For the first time, tears glistened in her eyes as she glanced away, struggling against something too heavy to bear alone. And just then, as if the universe had decided to intervene, Joe's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up, Josh's name flashing. An idea struck sharp, igniting a small flame of desperation within him. It was a distraction, but maybe it was exactly what they needed. I think I found something we need to talk about, he said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the rising panic in his chest. This isn't just about what's happening now. It's about what's coming. She turned back, confusion flitting across her features. What did Josh say? He hesitated, weighing the need for transparency against the risk of pushing her further away. It's about your choices. As he glanced at the buzzing phone, his gut twisted. He wasn't ready to confront the depths of Emily's reality. But there was no backing away now. Just promise me you'll listen, really listen this time. The darkness loomed around him, every second ticking closer to a revelation he wasn't certain Emily was prepared for. Joe took a deep breath, sensing the fragile tension dance between them like flickering firelight. Because if I'm right, things will change. And not for the better. What would she do? When faced with the truth he feared to speak, a small voice in his mind nagged at him. Was he doing the right thing? As night drew its heavy curtain around them, the stakes climbed higher. Would Emily listen? Or would she choose to stay in a world he couldn't reach? A world that might swallow her whole. Joe felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. He hesitated just a moment longer, collecting his thoughts as the buzzing phone continued to vibrate against his palm. Emily's eyes were glued to him, reflecting a mixture of confusion and palpable fear. It was a look he had seen before, often when she felt cornered. Josh said he thinks things are more serious than we thought, Joe finally managed, his voice steadying. He mentioned opportunities that could change everything for you. But with those opportunities come risks. Emily's brow furrowed deeper, her defenses building again. What do you mean? What kind of risks? Joe chose his words carefully, knowing this could all ignite the flame of a confrontation they weren't ready for. He's worried you might be losing sight of your passions in the pursuit of these offers. It's more about who you become as a result. His heart raced as he watched Emily's shoulders stiffen at every word. She was retreating once more into herself, and he feared too much truth would shove her right over the edge. Yet a flicker of something, curiosity, fear, played across her face. Why do you think I'm losing sight of them? She asked, her voice unsteady. I'm just trying to be responsible. I'm trying to make a life for myself. It's okay to be ambitious, Joe said, stepping closer, offering the warmth of understanding. But should ambition require you to silence the parts of yourself that dance with joy? The passion you had for design? A tear finally slipped down her cheek, and her defenses shattered. Dad, it feels like I'm swimming against this current. Everyone wants something from me, my friends, my professors, sometimes even you. He gulped, feeling the intensity of her honesty. But you don't have to swim alone. You have me. And Josh. As the comforting light from the nearby porch flickered on her face, something shifted in her gaze. For the first time, Joe caught a glimpse of the vulnerability beneath the frustration. The girl who once marveled at the night sky, who dreamed big dreams. What does he mean by changing everything? She whispered, the fight leaving her voice. Joe took a deep breath, knowing this was the moment he had been stalling for. The offers he mentioned, they involve more visibility, more exposure, a chance to present your designs nationally. You'd be stepping into the spotlight, but it comes with pressure. What kind of pressure? She pressed, biting her lip as she considered the weight of his words. The kind that could distract you from your true self. With every opportunity, you have to decide what parts of you stay and what parts of you go. The question becomes, will you be Emily, the designer, or just another name in a big machine? Silence loomed, and as Emily turned her gaze to the dimly lit street, The reality of Joe's words settled heavily around them. That familiar magic, the one they had shared in those backyard camps, felt so far away now. What if I fail? She whispered, her voice barely a murmur. Failure doesn't define you. It never has. It's just part of the journey. What matters is if you can keep hold of who you are amid all of it. As she considered his words, he could see the internal struggle clash within her. The young girl who once believed anything was possible wrestled with the young woman, living in a world of impossible standards. Can you promise me something? Joe asked gently. If you choose to go into this, promise me you'll still carve out time for art, for joy. It's too easy to lose that in the chase. Emily nodded slowly, but a flicker of uncertainty danced behind her eyes. Okay, promise. She didn't sound convinced, and the fear of the unknown lurked in the corners of her thoughts. Joe could feel the heavy tension shift in the air again, a crackling promise mixed with lingering doubt. Just when he thought they were finding common ground, the phone buzzed again, cutting through the moment like a knife. He glanced down, and his heart raced at the sight of Josh's name glowing brightly on the screen. What's this? Emily asked, her voice cautious. Let us find out together, Joe said, his hand shaking slightly as he swiped to answer. As he did, the tension became almost unbearable. What Josh had to say could be the pivot point, the moment everything changed, or the moment it all crumbled. Would this reveal deepen their connection, or send Emily further afloat in a sea of uncertainty? The beat of Joe's heart echoed in his ears, anxiety gripping him tight. He inhaled deeply as Josh's voice came through, cutting sharply into the night. Joe, we need to talk. It's urgent. About Emily. The air between them hung heavy with expectation. What urgency lay hidden in Josh's voice? And as Emily's eyes widened in concern, a thought struck him hard. What if, in revealing the truth, they uncovered something deeper than either could have ever prepared for? Joe's grip tightened around the phone. He could feel the pulse of anxiety race up his arm. He forced himself to focus on Josh's voice, searching for anything that might prepare him for what was coming. What about Emily? He asked, trying to infuse some steadiness into the words. It's about the design competition, Josh continued, hesitation evident in his tone. I think she needs to know all the details, Joe. This isn't just about her designs being seen. There are stakes involved. Major players are looking at her work. The gravity of Josh's words set off alarm bells in Joe's mind. He looked sideways at Emily, who was now biting her nails, her thoughts likely spiraling in every direction as they awaited the next words from Josh. Stakes? What kind of stakes? Joe pressed, feeling sweat bead on his forehead. The kind that involves contracts, image rights, and the potential for serious financial backing. But Joe, if things go sideways, there could be legal complications. And there's pressure. All that pressure, she's going to need guidance. Emily's breath hitched beside him. Guidance? She echoed, voice shaking again. Joe, Emily, this isn't just a competition. It's a chance to become someone influential in the industry. But it's also a minefield if not handled right, Josh answered, the urgency mounting. I really think you both should come in and talk. You need to weigh your options carefully. Are you saying it might be too much for her? Joe asked, needing to make sense of the chaos unfolding in front of him. It's not about whether she can handle it. It's about whether it's what she truly wants. I've seen too many talented people crushed under expectations. I just don't want Emily to lose herself in this whirlwind, Josh replied, voice cracking slightly. Joe's heart sank. He scanned Emily's face. He could see the flicker of excitement and fear battling within her. And if I say yes? She asked, a tremor in her voice. What if I'm ready for this? What if it's my chance? That's the million-dollar question, Josh said softly. You need to decide what that opportunity means to you, Emily. Is it worth the risk? Emily turned to look at the stars, her thoughts seemingly pulling her into a different reality. Joe felt the weight of the moment, realizing how fleeting childhood dreams can be when faced with adulthood. You first need to understand, darling, that pursuing your dreams doesn't mean compromising who you are. You need to hold on to that, your passion, your art. Isn't that just a part of growing up? She challenged lightly, fingers still tapping nervously on her thigh. Maybe, but some choices will sit with you forever. Count them all, weigh them down. Just don't count on losing yourself in the process. Okay, let us meet Josh, Emily said quietly, resolve creeping into her voice. I'm ready to hear everything. Joe nodded, a mix of pride and concern washing over him. It wasn't the end yet. It was just the beginning. He felt the urgency elevate once more. Let us go tomorrow then, he decided, feeling a wave of determination wash over him, even as his anxiety lingered beneath the surface. Wait! Emily exclaimed, her expression shifting. What if it's overwhelming? What if I'm not enough? How will I know? Joe reached for her hand, feeling the warmth of it. You'll find your way, Em. Just remember it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to navigate this alone. The phone went silent, but the eyes between them held 1,000 unwritten conversations, fears, hopes, and what-ifs spinning like shooting stars through their minds. As they shared that moment together, Joe realized that anything could shift at any moment. Decisions could change lives. Whatever lay ahead was uncertain, and that very uncertainty buzzed in the air like static electricity. Before we talk to Josh, Joe said, voice steady but filled with warmth, tell me, what does success look like for you? Emily looked out at the night again and, for the first time in a long time, smiled quite genuinely. I want to inspire. Just as the words left her lips, a shadow moved behind them. The night held secrets yet to be unveiled. Or what if there's more to it than I've ever dreamed? And Joe couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a wild ride. One that may lead them to solutions or deeper quandaries that would test their bond in ways neither had imagined. Emily's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and anxiety, capturing Joe's attention completely. He could feel a stirring within him, a sense that tonight was just the beginning of something big, something life-altering. The shadow from behind them lingered like an uninvited guest, igniting Joe's protective instincts. Do you see something? Emily whispered, abruptly snapping him from his thoughts. Joe turned, squinting into the darkness. A couple strolled by, hands interlaced, oblivious to their internal turmoil. No, it's nothing, he reassured her, but a knot tightened in his stomach. He still felt that pulse of unease. As they began walking home, the anxiety flickered like the streetlights overhead. What happens if your dreams are bigger than what you can handle? He mused, risking vulnerability. Emily glanced at him sideways. But what if it's my moment to shine? What if I'm standing at the door of something amazing? Her voice trembled with anticipation, and it soothed him yet made his heart race. Then we tackle it together, one step at a time. He squeezed her hand again, feeling a warmth that steadied him. Days passed, filled with hours of jitters and excitement. Emily immersed herself in her designs, sketching late into the night, surrounded by crumpled paper and coffee cups. It reminded Joe of their childhood endless nights planning futures woven from dreams and paint. But now those dreams came with promises and contracts that felt suffocating. The day of the meeting arrived too fast. The drive felt surreal. Joe's heart pounded loudly as he parked outside the chic office building where Josh worked. The facade of glass and steel seemed to reflect the weight of decisions pressing on their shoulders. Are you ready? Joe asked Emily, noting the way her fingers fidgeted with her necklace. She took a deep breath, a flicker of determination flashing in her eyes. Think so. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. They joined Josh in a minimalistic conference room, sunlight streaming through expansive windows, illuminating the stacks of paper that lay on the table like a landscape waiting to be explored. Thanks for coming, both of you, Josh said, straightening in his chair, his expression serious. There's a lot to discuss. This opportunity, it's incredible, like nothing I've seen before. He laid out the details one by one. As the conversation unfolded, Emily's features shifted, her excitement tempered by the harsh reality. Legal jargon and financial figures floated through the air like smoke, some intoxicating, others suffocating. His heart ached as he watched her enthusiasm wane. Is this what you wanted, Em? Joe finally asked, unable to stay quiet. Josh paused, eyeing Emily with anticipation. It's important to be sure of your direction before you leap. Emily's gaze fell to her sketches spread on the table, her thoughts trapped within those pages. I don't know. This is so much, she admitted, her voice quivering. Joe felt the sudden shift in the room's energy. He leaned closer, holding her gaze. Emily, it's okay to feel uncertain. You're allowed to take your time. A tear slipped down her cheek, surprising them both. What if I'm not ready? What if I screw everything up? Then you learn, Joe said, his tone gentle yet firm. Success isn't about never failing. It's about rising again and again. Emily nodded but seemed lost in thought, wrestling with the weight of it all. Josh's phone buzzed, slicing through the tension like a knife. He glanced at the screen and his eyes widened. I need to take this. Excuse me for a moment. He slipped out of the room, leaving them in a fragile silence. Joe started, his heart heavy with the worry that had been building. No matter what happens today, remember why you started this journey. Hold on to that passion. Just then a figure appeared at the door, casting a long shadow across the room. Joe's stomach dropped. Emily looked up sharply. Emily, a familiar voice called, its tone cutting through the stillness. It was her mentor from art school, someone Joe hadn't expected to see. We've been searching for you everywhere. The tension in the room shifted again, and as he looked between them, a sense of foreboding settled in. Joe's mind raced. What did this sudden appearance mean? Emily stood torn between the past and the future, caught in a moment that could change everything. Enough to take a leap of faith, possibly? Joe thought, feeling the weight of another impending decision. And just like that, an unexpected crossroads loomed, thick with possibilities, one that could either tether them to old dreams or launch them into unknown futures. Emily's heart raced as she recognized the face that had once been a guiding light during her formative years, the artist who had pushed her, inspired her, challenged her. The years melted away as memories of late-night critiques and heartfelt discussions flooded back. Sarah. She breathed, stunned. Emily. There you are. Sarah's smile was warm, but there was an urgency in her eyes. I was hoping we could talk. I have something important to share. Joe stepped back, feeling the dynamics shift. He looked at Emily, who stood transfixed, caught between excitement and the cliff of uncertainty. I was just about to discuss something big with Josh, Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. The meeting can wait, trust me, Sarah urged, taking a step closer. This could change everything for you. Joe sensed a protective instinct rise within him. This was Emily's moment, and he didn't want anyone, not even a mentor, overshadowing it. Emily, you need to decide what you want, he urged softly, hoping she would hear the support lacing his words. But her eyes remained on Sarah as if bewitched. What do you mean? Sarah hesitated, glancing at the door before continuing. There's an incredible art show coming up, one that could launch your career. But I need you to be fully committed. The deadline is tight, and I want you to shine. Joe's heart sank at the tangible tension in the room. And what do you want in return? He asked, his voice firm. Sarah turned to him, a hint of surprise in her expression. It's not about that. I want to help Emily prove herself. She has so much potential. But what if she's already committed to something else? Joe countered, feeling a swell of frustration. What if she wants this more than anything but is still figuring it out? Emily glanced between them, searching for a lifeline. I don't know what I want right now. That's the very reason I'm here, Sarah interjected, her tone softening. I can help guide you further. It's a chance to show who you really are, to craft your own narrative. Joe felt the weight of those words settle like an anchor, pulling Emily in too many directions. What's the price, though? He challenged, stepping slightly in front of her. You're asking her to leap, but at what cost? Emily's eyes flickered with uncertainty. Her dreams had always felt just within reach, and now they dangled before her like fruit on a tree. But were they ripe or rotten? Emily, Joe said gently, what's this show really about for you? Recognition or something deeper? Her chin quivered as she took in the choices laid out before her. I want to be seen, truly seen, she admitted, vulnerability spilling into her words. Then you have to choose what feels right, not what looks right, Joe urged. At that moment, Josh re-entered the room, his expression slightly frantic. What did I miss? Emily took a deep breath, the tension making every inhale feel like a mountain to climb. I need a moment. She stepped away from both Sarah and Joe, feeling the weight of her choices pressing down, and faced the wall of windows behind her. Joe could see the struggle etched into her features, the silent battle of ambition and fear rattling within her. Emily, I know this is huge, Josh stepped forward, sensing the energy shift. But you can't let the noise drown out your voice. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow that flickered over Emily's face like the possibilities that lay ahead. As she stood there, lost in thought, Joe's chest tightened with urgency. What if this is all too much? What if she chooses wrong? But as he watched her, he realized that it was her choice to make. Even as shadows gathered around them, the light of her potential blazed on. Your heart can guide you, he whispered, knowing the truth of it wasn't just about opportunity. It was about her identity. What will it be? He wondered, counting the moments while she stood at the crossroad, about to make a choice that could define everything. His heart raced, eager for her answer, each second heavy with the weight of indecision. The moment felt monumental, burdensome yet exhilarating, and all he could do was stand by her side. As Sarah watched, hopeful but pressing, and Josh maintained a watchful eye, Emily looked back at them, ready to finally break the silence. And with that gaze, she was about to reveal not just her choice but a side of her that would change everything. Emily felt the weight of everyone's gaze. It was as if time had suspended in that very moment. The pressure hung thick in the air. Her heart raced louder with each passing second. She looked at Sarah, whose eyes sparkled with hope, then turned to Joe, who wore a blend of concern and encouragement. Josh was on the brink of anticipation. She took a long, shaky breath. I want to do it, she finally said, her voice trembling but resolute. I want to be a part of the show. Relief washed over Joe's features, yet she could see the trace of caution etched into his brow. Are you sure, Em? He queried softly. This is a big leap. I've never been more sure about anything, she replied with a fierceness that surprised even herself. The thought of showing the world her true self sent a thrill of determination coursing through her veins. Sarah nodded, a satisfied smile creeping across her face. Great. We'll make a plan. I'll help you every step of the way. But as excitement flickered in Emily's chest, a nagging voice whispered doubts. Had she really thought through the decision? What if the pressure to perform overwhelmed her? Just remember, this is your journey, Josh chimed in, breaking her train of thought. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Focus on your story. Emily nodded, grateful for their support. Yet an underlying fear clung to her. What if she wasn't good enough? The last time she had been so confident about her skills, her work had been met with critique and harsh judgment. But maybe this time would be different. Perhaps this was the chance to reclaim her narrative, to redefine herself in front of those who mattered. As they filled the room with planning and excitement, it started to feel surreal. Emily could hardly contain her eagerness, juggling ideas and crafting visions in her mind. For the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of inspiration lighting the darkness. But then, a sudden thought pricked her enthusiasm, a question that lingered as she carried on in the whirlwind of discussion. What if I fail? The words slipped from her lips before she could form a filter. Joe turned to her, earnest and understanding. Then you'll learn. Failure is just part of the journey. You want to know who you are without trying and failing first. Yes, exactly. Growth comes from uncomfortable places, Sarah added, her expression glowing. Emily chewed on their words. It was comforting yet daunting. Embracing failure felt like a dangerous gamble. Still, she craved this challenge. She craved growth. As they discussed logistics, a timeline, themes, potential collaborators, she felt herself transforming. She was no longer that timid girl unsure of her worth. The discussions continued to blur together as the room filled with laughter and enthusiasm. Emily felt a newfound empowerment. Maybe she could really do this, capture her story, show the world who she was meant to be. But just as she was beginning to feel invincible, her phone pinged sharply, cutting through the celebratory atmosphere. Unease stirred in her gut as she glanced at the notification. It was a message from a blocked number. Emily, it read, "Don't betray me, you'll regret it." Her heart dropped. The world around her shifted into sharp focus. Had she really just agreed to step into the spotlight? And what did that ominous warning mean? Emily felt the room spin slightly, the laughter dissolving into the background noise. The anticipation of her art show dimmed, replaced by a creeping sense of foreboding. What's wrong? Joe noticed her sudden shift in demeanor. That question hung heavy, just like the warning she clutched between her fingers. She had wanted this moment, but there it was, a dark whisper of doubt overshadowing her dreams. What awaited her on this journey? "And my phone," she stammered, showing them the message. The air felt charged with uncertainty, and a new urgency festered in her chest. I don't understand. Emily knew she had to make a choice now, not just about the show, but about how much of herself she was willing to risk. With the shadows creeping back in, the moment she thought might give her wings suddenly felt like a trap. Could she face whatever lay ahead, or would she be pulled down under the weight of her own decisions? As she looked at Joe and Sarah, she knew the answer might come at a cost she hadn't anticipated. The real journey was just beginning. Emily stood in the room, her heart pounding like a wild drum in her chest. The joy, laughter, and momentum built around the excitement of the art show suddenly felt muted by that ominous message on her phone. The room's energy shifted, and the air thickened, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for her to decide how she would step into her future. "Dad, what should I do?" She turned to Joe, searching for the steadying hand that had always guided her through storms. His eyes were warm, filled with love and an understanding deeper than words. Yet, she could sense the worry lurking beneath his calm exterior. You know what you want. You've worked too hard to let fear dictate your choices now," he said softly, leaning closer, his voice steady like the grounding force she so desperately needed. "But you also need to be aware of the risks. Stay true to yourself, and don't let anyone control your story." She just stared at him, feeling the full weight of the moment. The warning echoed in her mind the way an alarm bell clangs in a quiet space, and she knew that the path ahead was twisted with uncertainty and challenges. Could she confront the darkness seeking to settle over her dreams? Tears threatened to spill as she read the message again. Who could it be from? Was it Josh? Someone from the past? Emily felt the well of past fears bubble up again, and it terrified her. But she also remembered the joy of creating, the dreams that made her heart leap. "I want to do this," she whispered, her voice trembling yet fierce. "I want this show more than anything." Joe's voice became firm yet gentle. "Then you'll face whatever comes your way with honesty and strength. Remember, you're not alone. We'll get through this together." The quiet strength in his words wrapped around her like a warm coat on a bitter day. Despite the ominous shadow lurking in the corner of her mind, she pulled strength from her father, from the memories they had built together, and from the passion that fueled her art. Just then, Sarah chimed in, her expression a mixture of excitement and resolve. "This is your moment, Em. Don't let an anonymous message change your path. You have the power to craft your own narrative. Show the world who you are." The resolve began to solidify within her. The flame of inspiration rekindled. She retracted her eyes from the threatening wall of uncertainty and allowed herself to embrace the possibility. "Okay, I'm ready," Emily said, wiping the tears that had begun to flow. "I won't let fear steer my decisions. I'll pursue my art. I'll be a part of the show." The atmosphere shifted again, excitement igniting sparks of creativity and hope, banishing shadows of fear. Joe's expression morphed into one of pride as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's my girl. Stay grounded in your values, and this will be an incredible journey." With newfound energy, Emily gathered her thoughts. "I'll confront whoever this is if it means standing firm in my choices. But we need to prepare. Let us make a plan." The energy in the room surged as they brainstormed together, Joe, Sarah, and Emily blending ideas and aspirations into a tapestry depicting Emily's true potential. Each suggestion brought life back to her discarded dreams, illuminating the path ahead with shining possibilities. But as they flipped through sketches and potential designs, that urgent message nagged at her. Who would threaten her? What if the well-laid plans of her product launch met unexpected opposition? As if reading her thoughts, Joe spoke again. "Just keep your eyes open, Em. Action always beats reaction. Speak your truth and never let anyone else write your story." She nodded, determination setting her shoulders square. "You're right. I'll make my voice heard regardless of what happens." With their plan set, they agreed on deadlines, potential collaborations, and the important steps Emily would take to showcase her work. It felt exhilarating, almost surreal. Days turned into nights, and Emily poured everything into her art. She channeled her passion, her memories, and those joyful moments spent in the park, crafting designs that felt genuinely reflective of herself. Each brushstroke pushed aside residual doubts, revealing her authentic creativity. Then came the day of the show. The air buzzed with excitement and nerves as Emily stood backstage, vulnerable yet strong. She could hear murmurs of attendees, anticipation swirling in the air. "This is it, tonight I share my story with the world." Just as she prepared to step onto the stage, Her phone buzzed again. Emily glanced down and her heart sank, fingers trembling as she stared at the screen. The same blocked number flashed before her eyes. You should have stayed quiet. It will cost you. A chill raced down her spine, but just before panic could set in, she thought of Joe's words. Stay grounded in your values. She breathed deeply, closing her eyes for a moment. No longer would she allow her dreams to be dictated by fear or intimidation. I'm done living afraid, she whispered to herself. With her heart racing but her spirit unwavering, Emily strode onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her like a beacon. The applause washed over her like a comforting wave. She could feel the warmth, the strength of her family behind her, supporting her every step. I'm ready to share my journey, a beautiful mess of inspiration, courage, and creativity, she declared, her voice resonating through the hall. Tonight my art speaks for me. And it's only the beginning. As she unveiled her work, she held nothing back. Every brushstroke represented healing and honesty, reflecting not only her talent but her growth, the journey from girlhood to womanhood, from fear to resilience. And through it all, she remembered her father's unwavering faith, their shared memories, and the power of choosing your own path. The dark whispers were drowned out by the joy of creation, by the love of her family, and the vibrant hearts of the community that surrounded her. In this moment, Emily knew she had not just stepped onto a stage, but into the life she deserved, a life filled with purpose, intuitively crafted just for her. There would always be shadows, challenges, and moments of doubt, but she understood now that she had all the strength she needed. As she took her final bow, applause thundered around her, affirming that she was not only seen but celebrated. In that moment she knew she was more than enough. The future was hers for the taking. Fear no longer held her captive. She had wings to soar. And as they left the auditorium that night, Joe squeezed her hand, knowing they had crossed an important threshold together. I'm proud of you, Em. You've transformed. Emily smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face. Thank you, Dad. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Together they stepped into the night, hearts soaring, excited for whatever lay ahead, because now they both understood the incredible truth. Sometimes the greatest wealth lies not in riches, but in love, courage, and the power of dreams fulfilled. The path would be uncertain, but together they would navigate every twist and turn, hand in hand, pain and joy alike. This was just the beginning. And now, dear friends, if you've enjoyed this journey of resilience and transformation, don't wait another second. You need to subscribe now to catch even more incredible stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like to fuel our passionate community. Your support matters big time. Comment below with your thoughts on Emily's inspiring journey and how you connect with her story. And for those who have friends yearning for transformation, share this video with at least 5 people who need to hear this message. Don't let your loved ones miss out. This is the moment to show your support. Your voice matters, so let us spread the light together.